Okay, Chabura, good morning. Right, so after that slightly humiliating introduction, okay, let's get into the truth. Is I spent a bit of time, for which I'm grateful to you that I had the opportunity to do that, to look over Reb Chaim. There is still a piece here that I'm not sure that I fully understand it, if I'm honest. That's even before we get into the various machlokes. But we need to make some progress in the Reb Chaim today. I hope we'll finish it today. I hope. Not sure. Let's go over the Chakira. Did anybody get a chance to look over it? Okay, so let me try and do this with you. You absolutely need to focus. Okay? I think we'll do it inside, and then I'll explain it outside. Okay? Let's go to the third line. Elo da'akati. Oh, in mine it's the third line. Sorry, I don't know if it's the same in yours. Elo da'akati yesh lehistapik. So it's in the second paragraph was Ubir Das or Rambam, and it's about 10 or so lines into that. Elo da'akati yesh lehistapik. That's where we're up to. Do you have it? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Let's go. So follow with me carefully.
Look hier steht.
Ja, ne?
Mit zweimal
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Okay? Right. Elo da'akati yesh lehistapik. Im kol hagzeiras hakosuv de roideif, hu rak ba'atzmoi shel horoideif, sheyidocha mipnei pikuach nafshoi shel hanirdaf. Asks Reb Chaim, what is the definition, or perhaps more correctly, the parameters? What is the chidush? How sweeping? What is included in the package? You get home, I've bought a nice new Roidef. What's inside it?
Right.
What's in the box? What's in Roidef? So is it merely, and this would be, as the way he normally presents it, the regular superficial way of thinking, that in a normal pikuach nefesh situation, we say, if it's a case of one soul, one life versus another, we say ein doiche nefesh mipnei nefesh. Roideif is the single exception to that rule. That's the way we normally understand Roideif. It is pretty simple. It comes with one little thing in the box, which is that the regular rule of ein doiche nefesh mipnei nefesh doesn't apply in a case of a Roideif, and the soul, the nefesh of the Roideif is nidche, is overridden by the nefesh of the nirdaf. Right. Full stop. That is and that's his first sad in the Chakira. This is his first suggestion. Option A. Let's do that again inside. Okay? Elo da'akati yesh lehistapik bozeh. Im kol hagzeres hakosuv deroidev, hu rak, perhaps, that the entire gzeres hakosuv of roidev is rak, it is no more than, it is merely ba'atzmoi shel haroidev. But listen to what he does with his language. It is focused entirely, as I'm saying this, I think this is why it's so good to learn and to teach. Just it forces you to sharpen and clarify and be absolutely on point and precise. When I learned this before, I don't think I'd fully, if I'm honest, I don't think I'd fully appreciated the subtlety here. The first and more superficial way of looking at it at this halacha of Roideif is that it says nothing about the nirdaf. It is not nirdaf focused. It is Roideif focused. The gzeras hakosuv, the chidush, the halachic innovation of the Torah is, normally we have in a pikuach nefesh situation, we have two souls, and we are halachically unable to choose. Ein doiche nefesh mipnei nefesh. Okay? Suggests Reb Chaim that perhaps the regular way, the superficial, the simple way that we would understand the anomaly, the chidush, the gzeras hakosuv, the innovation of Roideif is no more than that the Roidef's soul is now given a lower rating. That's it. Once you achieve the status of Roidef, achieve is probably the wrong word. Once you attain, also the wrong word, you know what I mean? When you qualify...
Take on.
Whatever, yes, because you do choose, yes, usually. Yeah. So what if you are a Roidef, if you are designated halachically as a Roidef, do you know what happens? Your life just became worth less than that of the Nirdaf, which means that we're now able to make that choice. And the Ein Doiche Nefesh Mipnei Nefesh is only because they are assumed to be, or we lack the ability to evaluate the relative value of any life, and normally we say there's a total equivalence. Roidef comes along and tells us there is no more equivalence. Why? Because the Roidef's life is worth less. It tells us nothing about the Nirdaf. It is silent. That's the subtlety. You see that? It's in his language. It's always written so precise. I can't tell you now. Im kol hagzeres hakosov de Roidef hu rak ba'atzmoi shel haroidef. In the halachic person of the Roidef, sheyidocher, it gets overridden and pushed aside because of the pikuach nefesh of the Nirdaf. Avol ikar hahatzola shel hanirdaf, but the fundamental underlying imperative to save the life of the Nirdaf is untouched. It isn't changed. Nothing's changed. Business as usual. We know there's a general halacha in kol haTorah kula that you save. There's an imperative to save a life. Roidef tells me nothing about imperatives or chiyuvim of saving lives. It is silent on the subject. It says merely one thing, suggests Reb Chaim in this first tzad. That what? That the life of the Roidef just became worth less than that of the Nirdaf. And then the regular halacha of Hatzalah in the entire kol haTorah kula kicks in automatically. Roidef just does only that one thing. Is that? I think I've put that, if I say so myself, more clearly than yesterday. Yeah? Put it more precisely. That's the first tzad. Oi. Or possibly, Denema, perhaps we can suggest, Degam ikar hahatzola shel hanirdaf hi mehach gzeras hakosuv shel Roidef. No, suggests Reb Chaim. And you know, when he does this, that he's going to go with this one. The more innovative one, right? The one which he is mechadash, so to speak, his deeper understanding. And here he says, no. He says, the Gezeras HaKosav, the halachic innovation, the halach of Roidef says more than merely devaluing the life of the Roidef. It says more. It introduces a new halachic imperative of Hatzalah in the case of a Roidef. As well. There is a new Chiyuv Hatzalah. Aside for, why do we need a new one? What is it? We're going to go into all the details in a minute. But this is the key point. Or perhaps suggests Reb Chaim Denema. Degam ikar hahatzola shel hanirdaf. The imperative, the chiyuv, the obligation to save the one who's being pursued, he mehach gzeras hakosav shel Roidef. It's included in this innovation of this halacha of Roidef. V'hu din hatzola bifnei atzmai shel nirdaf. It is a separate din of hatzola. To save, there is a chiyuv to save the life of the nirdaf. Milvad din pikuach nefesh al chol haTorah. Besides for the pikuach nefesh of the whole Torah. V'tzarechiyim. Let me give it a little bit more depth. Here is, I'm going to suggest what I think perhaps Reb Chaim means. We could say that in this second side of the Chakira, it could be that the relative values of the Roidef and the Nirdaf per se remain equivalent. But the Torah is mechadesh that in a case of the Roidef, the chiyuv of Hatzalah, there is a unique one-off chiyuv of Hatzalah, which includes and overrides the nefesh of the roidef.
Sorry.
Now it could be again, this is subtle, and it sounds like it may sound like it's irrelevant, but boy, you're going to see it's really, really relevant. So stick with it.
Tzal of the mother? No, Tzal of who?
Again. His second sad is
just roidef, not in the case of
roidef. You see, you're jumping. We first have to talk about roidef, and then we need to talk about this particular case, the ubar, etc. But there is a gzeros hakosov, forgetting mothers and fetuses for the moment, right?
So just for understanding, if we say the first side was that we say the olive goes down. Right?
Correct.
So if the olive goes down, then we don't have an added chiyuv of Hatzalah. We just have the problem of
we have removed the normal constraint that we have.
We just removed.
We have removed. Correct.
Right.
Nicely put.
So the second side.
Second says
no, it's not that simple. It's not just removing the obstacle, so to speak, by putting him down, but it's also because the Nirdov.
It is creating a new obligation of Hatzalah of a Nirdaf, even at the expense of the life of a Roidef.
Which overrides, so to speak, the Roidef.
Correct.
So yeah. So that's the.
But it derives from a new chiyuv of Hatzalah. Because the normal chiyuv of Hatzalah, we would say, ein doich nefesh mepnei nefesh. That one remains. Here's a new chiyuv of Hatzalah in a very specific case called a Roidef. And this new obligation to save a life is said by the Torah to exist, even if it means taking the life of the Roidef. Mm-hmm. Now, you could suggest that, therefore, de facto, you have devalued the life of the Nirdaf. That might be de facto, but not de jure. That's not what you've actually said. What you've said is you've introduced a chiyuv, a new, more or sweeping chiyuv of Hatzalah, which includes very specifically the life of the Roidef. Now, you look at me quite puzzled. Who cares? Well, what difference does it make? Oh boy, you're going to see. These two, this is why it's classic Reb Chaim. That's why you have to stay with it. Okay?
Just where did the chiyuv of Hatzalah went in the first start by putting down the Roidef? That's not quite.
No, the chiyuv of Hatzalah didn't go anywhere. That's exactly the point.
But it was like,
No. Again, the first sad is there is a chiyuv of Hatzalah throughout the Torah. Nothing to do with Roidef. I see somebody drowning, I've got to save them. And that remains. But when it comes to a case of one life versus another, kill or be killed, usually we just have to walk away because we're happy to save a life. But we don't know which one to save, because by saving this one, I'm actually killing another one. So I have to walk away. That's because of ein doich nefesh mipnei nefesh. But that is an external constraint. All Roidef does, in the first side of Reb Chaim, all Roidef does is it removes the constraint. How does it remove the constraint? What is the technical? By devaluing the value of the life of the Roidef. Once you've devalued it, then of course automatically I jump in and save the life that I now know. Now I've been able to make that decision. That external constraint of ein doich nefesh mipnei nefesh has magically disappeared. Mm-hmm. That's what's happened. And then automatically I kill the Roidef. Right. Automatically. Why do I kill the Roidef? Under what thing? Under the regular pikuach nefesh. Right. Reb Chaim in his second sad says no. So again, in the first sad, it is focused entirely on one thing only, the nefesh of the Roidef, which we give a lower rating, a lower weighting, a lower value. That's all it does. The second sad does something else altogether. It introduces a new chiyuv of Hatzalas nefesh hanirdaf. You see what he's done? He's now focused on the nirdaf to include and incorporate, even at the expense of the life of the Roidef. The first one is Roidef focused, the second one is Nirdaf focused. Mm-hmm. The technicalities of the first one is to devalue the life of the Roidef. The technicalities of the second one is to introduce a new and more sweeping obligation of Hatzalah of the Nirdaf, even at the expense of the life of the Roidef. So far, so unclear? Well, it's clear what he said, but What is this going to mean in practice? And how is this going to play out? And what has this got to do with the Rambam?
But Tachlis, it's both the same, but here we go from the Rodef side, and
It's
here we
just,
go from the
at the moment, it is, this is the problem.
The Nafkamina is the same.
The
isn't it?
nafkamina in halacha
Yes.
is going to be the same.
Right.
But if, and this is again, but guys, this is classic Bris, this is classic Reb Chaim. At the moment, we are talking at a very academic, intellectual, theoretical, abstract, almost philosophical level to understand the rubric, the underpinning, the categorization of obligations, rights, and all of these things, how they play out. Now what he's going to do now is, he's going to use this, first of all, he's going to provide some sources, and now, this is, as always, he's now going to go back to the roots. We need to go back to the Pesukim. And here you'll see immediately, it's going to start playing itself out immediately. And it really is quite genius. We're deconstructing what's going on under the hood of the Rambam. Okay? Let's do this. Weiter. We've got at least today, I feel that we've got the Chakira. Yes? Good. Let's go on. And he ends off, he says, V'tzarechir. V'nireh. In mine is the beginning of a new line, I don't know. V'nireh dekein hu ka'ofen hasheni shekosavnu. It would appear, he suggests, and you knew this was coming, of course, it would appear that actually it is the second tzad which is correct. Dahare. Now, you can't just, remember this in Torah, this is really, really, really important. You can't just say, well, I think this, I feel this. It's really fascinating for a Talmudist to, I'm going to digress, but it is a little bit connected. I don't know if I should admit on live camera, but I do sometimes when I follow the heated debate, especially in America. For some reason, all the YouTube videos seem to be in America, where it is abortion still is, as we said, after Roe v. Wade and now Dobbs, it's a hot button topic. It is very hot. And you can see debates of people, whether they're vox pops, people in the street, usually from the far right or the right. Sorry, I shouldn't say the far right. I mean, either from the right wing. And when you look at the level of intellectual, when you contrast what happens there to what happens here, it is always, for me, it is incredibly fascinating. So, for example, you may have a Ben Shapiro lecture or something. And even though, and like I said before, perhaps his perspective is much closer aligned to Torah perspective, but what is the on what basis, it's a deeper discussion, I don't know if I should have started this, most people's opinions are not based on something they've analysed and worked through very carefully, which is what we do with Torah. But even that being said, Voltaire said, one of my favourite Voltaire quotes, he said, when people say that they're thinking, they are merely rearranging their prejudices.
That's good.
Which is one of my favourite Voltaire quotes. Vorurteile, sagt man? Yeah. Vorurteile. Yeah, I managed to work out what that word meant from deconstructing it.
I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's it. He said, and people are just rearranging their prejudices. The concept of genuine original thought is very difficult for everybody because of a whole host of reasons. The point is, what I was trying to get to, and I hadn't intended going there, is the level of debate. Oh, look, you can see the sonogram and the baby's wiggling inside, so it must be alive. I mean, okay. Is that that's it? I'm sometimes embarrassed on both sides. We come at this, it's not about what you feel, I think, I identify, we have Torah as an infinite, absolute yardstick of definitions of reality, which we then have to implement. But it's not based on what you think or what you feel. This is what he's going to do now, is he's going to go back to the Makoros. So he posed this very elegant intellectual conundrum in what is going on with Radef. What is he going to do now? He's now going to go back to the Makoros, back to the sources, to prove that one side is right. And then we're going to see how it's going to play out in halacha, and it'll move from the world of the abstract absolutely to the world of the real. But it's grounded it has to be grounded in cast iron Torah logic based on our Makoros, with its inbuilt hierarchy, Posuk, Mechilta, Mishnah, etc. It's a very well constructed and very tight system of authority, of precedent. It's also flexible that we can be mechadish. This is the genius of it. It's the exoskeleton. That's Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat Peh. That's another hashkafa shmuz. I mustn't get carried away, even though I enjoy it. Okay, so now let's see. V'nira dekenu koifen hasheni. It's the second. I believe the second side is right. Why? The Harei besugya sham mavur. The Alfina, the sugya then in Sanhedrin, we haven't seen this. Is the Alfina din roidef mikra the shefich dam ha'odam ba'odam dam yishafech. A source for the halacha of roidef is from that very pasuk that we used for abortion. Shefich dam ha'odam ba'odam dam yishafech. Says Reb Chaim, hold on a second. Harei diyesh din ze gam b'bnei Noach. That's a pasuk in Parshas Noach. So you see the din of roidef applies to bnei Noach. The Parsha zu haloi nemra l'Noach. V'cheinu b'lehedya b'Sanhedrin daf nun zayin. And he says, additionally, I can prove this from the Gemara in daf nun zayin. The choshev lahach the yochel lahatzil be'echad me'ivarav b'kiyetze b'zeh the nochri b'nochri k'may b'Yisrael. The Gemara says explicitly. Remember, I told you that if you could kill the roidev, not kill the roidev, if you could stop the roidev by shooting his legs, right, you have to do so. The Gemara says explicitly that this applies also to a Gentile. Gentile on a Gentile. Mm-hmm. So what do you see? You see that the din roidev exists outside of the rest, to some respect, outside of the rest of the structure of Tariag mitzvahs. It's part of it. But it incorporates, Bnei Noach generally have 7 mitzvahs, right? Mm-hmm. And this applies to them. Okay, murder is one of them, yeah, right? But the details within the laws of murder, right, the details, roidef is very clearly, the Gemara says, 2 Gemaras, that roidef falls within the ambit of Bnei Noach. Okay, so what? Where's he going with this? V'cheinu b'Rambam perik tes hilchos melachim harei lehedya. So you see explicitly de'im eino yochel hatzal bechen meivarav matzil noise b'nafshe shel roidev kan b'Bnei Noach. You see that if you are not able, you see from that Gemara that if you are not able, Gentile on Gentile, he's unable to shoot his legs, for some reason unable, he has no choice but to shoot his heart, then he shoots. Right. Hold on a second. There is no din of pikuach nefesh internally with Bnei Noach. Bnei Noach don't have the obligation that we have. We have an obligation for a Jew to save the life of another Jew, even if it means doing Yisurim. There is no parallel halacha for a Ben Noach to save a Ben Noach. There's no hatzola for a Ben Noach. I'm not talking about us interacting with them. We're talking about them. Bnei Noach. There is no din of a Ben Noach having an obligation to save the life of another Ben Noach. There is no hatzola. There is no hatzola, but there is Raider. Right. You see what he's done? That's exactly it. Exactly. He's decoupled. It's genius. This is now. This is not. Oh, I think, I feel. Hold on a second. If I understand, what was my first tzad, says Reb Chaim? My first tzad in Din Roidef is that it does nothing more than devalue the nefesh of the Roidef. Can't be, says Reb Chaim, because if that's the case, then there would be no Din Roidef for a Ben Noach, and we know that there is. Why would there be no Din Roidef for a Ben Noach? Because if you're saying that we just devalue one life, and then the regular halacha of Hatzalah kicks in, and you kill the Roidef, but with a Ben Noach that doesn't work, because there is no din outside of a Ben Noach. So Roidef must be telling me something much more innovative, something totally different. You have to decouple. He has demonstrated that Roidef is decoupled from the regular chiyuv of Hatzalah.
So therefore, must be.
So therefore, the first tzad does not work. Right. Yes? Right. Yes. It's elegant, beautiful. Let's go on. We're just beginning. We're just beginning the work. We're nowhere near through it yet. Elovadai dav gzeros hakosuv bifnei atzmoi lahatzil hanirdaf benafshoi shel roidef. This has to be, and this must be like the second sad, says Reb Chaim, that what? We've introduced a new chiyuv of Hatzalah for Ben Noach even. That in a and here's the genius of it. Now, he's now demonstrated. The Gemara says they're the same. Roidef, the parish of Roidef operates the same. We've therefore had to take the regular Hatzalas Nefesh out of the picture. So what must it mean? So why? You see, let's look at it from a Ben Noach's perspective now. A Ben Noach in a situation, a Ben Noach with a Ben Noach, right? Situation of a Roidef. Now, normally, a Ben Noach is not allowed. What would be the halach of a Ben Noach in a case of kill or be killed? He wouldn't be allowed to kill. He wouldn't be allowed to kill.
Right.
And a Ben Noach is not allowed to murder. Right? Not because nothing to do with Hatzalah. You're not allowed to kill. The Torah now comes along and says to everybody, there is one situation where murder is permitted. Why? Because you have a duty. I'm introducing a duty for you to save the life of a nirdaf. And this will apply even to Bnei Noach. So there's a new chiyuv Hatzalah. There's a chiyuv, in a case of a roidef, says the Torah, there is a chiyuv of Hatzalas, nefesh, and nirdaf with the life of the roidef. And that chiyuv Hatzalah applies equally to Bnei Noach and indeed to Jews. It has to be a new chiyuv, because it can't be the old one because Bnei Noach are not included in it.
And this is to be differentiated from the regular chiyuv Hatzalah.
Absolutely. And we're going to see. You need a lot of patience with Reb Chaim. Sometimes it can take, even without going into the sugi, you can... Learning a Reb Chaim really is if you're going to do it properly, you pace up and down. And I spent quite some time yesterday going through this again. You really need to think it through very carefully. But let's go on. So far, so good, right? This has no connection to the regular halacha of pikuach nefesh. It's also included in Ben Noach. I'll leave that out, but they have a halacha of dinin, right? Right. Now, here is. Let me ask you a shaila. Let me ask you an interesting shaila. I don't know whether you know this. What would be if you were chas v'shalom to see somebody running after a girl or a woman with clear intent to violate her, to rape? Okay, aroyos. What's the halacha? And you happen to have a gun on you.
So she is near death in this case.
Yeah.
So we gotta.
It's absolutely halacha v'roidef. You can kill, shoot it. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you do the thing that prevents.
Obviously, if you can just shoot his what's it off or whatever it is, his arm is whatever it is. If you can incapacitate him, then of course, of course, that's always. I'm not going to say that every 2 minutes. That's the imma. Okay, fine. Let's go on. V'haloi Yisoid hachdino shel roidef achachaver lahorga yafil lo b'Sanhedrin dafayin gimel. We learn it out in Sanhedrin me'aroyos. We actually learn the din of roidef from aroyos. Because it's a bit complicated. I don't know if you remember the Kikasha Yokum, Ishur, Tzochei Nefesh, Keina, Dover Azeh, the Gemara, Bol Lamed, Venim Tzolomed. I can bore you with all of the things, but you can trust me that we learn roidef from aroyos. Roidef, as in for murder, is learnt from aroyos. Because the Pasuk says that when if a girl is chas v'shalom, she is raped, it says, Tzoaka Be'ir, she was outside the city, Ve'ein Moshiach, there was nobody to help her, nobody to save her. The Gemara learns from here, but obviously if there was somebody there to save her, he would absolutely have to intervene and save her. And then we learn from aroyos, we actually learn to murder. So roidef, in other words, you need to expand your definition, your understanding of roidef is not just in a situation of a life being forfeit. It's also something such as rape. Okay? Mishum she'ein zeh, we learn it from Mikrodei Meshila, ma she'ein kain, ma she'ein zeh shayach klal din pikuach nefesh, shall kol ha-Torah kula. What's the halacha? Would you save the din of pikuach nefesh? What is pikuach nefesh? Pikuach nefesh, as it says it on the tin, the v'chai bohem is the yochiv of pikuach nefesh has to do with one situation only. if somebody's going to die, not if they're going to be raped.
Mm.
So you see, the fact that Roidef is another proof, so to speak. Roidef is even in a situation of rape.
Yeah.
So you see, it's got nothing to do with Pikuach Nefesh. Pikuach Nefesh is only, it says it on the tin, Pikuach Nefesh, to save a life. If you're going to die. So, right? So this is another. So there's a second proof, so to speak. One proof from Bnei Noach, and this is the second one. You with me? Elavadai have a din b'fnei atzmei. So he has proved that it is a standalone halacha. Roidef is a separate halacha. Din hatzala shel nirdaf. You must save the nirdaf. Somebody who's being pursued needs to be saved, even at the expense of the life of the roidef. What is he being roidef for? I don't know. Could be im laharigim larayos. Could be running after somebody to kill him or to rape them. Makes no difference. That's roidef. There's a chiyuv of hatzalah there is a new chiyuv to save the life of a nirdaf. Somebody's being pursued. What are they being pursued for? I don't know, either murder or rape. It doesn't matter. There's a roidef. It's a new chiyuv of hatzalah. Okay? Ashelefi zanira. We're only going to finish this paragraph. A few more minutes. Ashelefi zanira b'lei mebedas harambam. Now he says, I'm going to tell you pshat in the Rambam. Remember, it was a long time ago. What did the Rambam say? The Rambam said that when the uber is still inside, you ever, right? Rashi says because it's not a nefesh. The Rambam says it's a roidef. It's a roidef. And the question was, well, you see clearly from the end of the Mishnah that it's not a roidef. Make up your mind. What's going on? So he's first setting the scene for understanding the first bit. Because the Rambam holds the bedim pikuach nefesh al kol haTorah kula. Insofar as the regular halacha of pikuach nefesh, be'emes havadina degam uber hu bichlal nefesh. Not like Rashi. He says the Rambam is absolutely, and he's going to prove it tomorrow. We'll prove it. It is absolute proofs that insofar as the allgemeine halacha, the regular halacha of pikuach nefesh, an uber is also a nefesh. And we would have to fold our arms and say, I'm really sorry, ein doich nefesh mipnei nefesh. Yeah. That's insofar as the regular chiyuv of hatzalah is concerned. Absolutely 100% an uber is a nefesh. And therefore on that basis, if it wasn't for roidev, if it was just a regular situation, we would have to say, I can't do anything. An uber is absolutely a nefesh. And ein doich nefesh mipnei nefesh would apply. Ve'im banu lahatzil nefesh b'nefesh shel uber heicha deloy have a roidev. What would be a situation where there's no roidev, but I want to save the life of an uber at the expense of the life of another one? Have a dinner to ein matzilin. Of course, we wouldn't do it. Va'al kein hacha. Therefore, the Rambam says, im banu lodon mishum pikuach nefesh al kol haTorah. If we were to approach this halacha merely using the regular halacha of hatzalah that applies in the entire Torah, loy haya ha'uba nidcha. We would not cut up the uba chas v'shalom mipnei nefesh shel ha'ein v'rak b'din hatzalah ha'amura b'roidei. The fact that the kid is roid of his mother introduces a whole new thing. I now have a new chiyuv to save a nirdaf, even at the expense. It's a chiyuv of hatzalah, even at the expense of a nefesh. Then the life of the uber is nidchas b'hatzalah zu, not because it's an uber, but because it's a roidef. It's because it's a roidef. See what he's done? He's turned it on its head. Rashi used to Rashi the baby being a roidef is a problem because of the end of the Mishnah, which, by the way, we're still going to have to get to. We're not through the woods yet. This is stage one. I mean, let me acknowledge it now before somebody jumps down my throat. Mm-hmm. We still have a contradiction to the end, because in the end of the Gemara it says, it's Zeu Tirah Shel Olam, he's not a roidef. And we still have to deal with that, and he will, brilliantly. But do you realize what he's done? The genius of what he's done is he's turned it on its head. The very reason which Rashi used to say that he's not a roidef, the Rambam is using the same thing to say he is a nefesh, and therefore he has to be a roidef. Because if he wasn't a roidef, then we'd have to walk away. It's precisely because, you see what he's done? Do you hear that? Yeah. It's precisely because the uber absolutely is a nefesh, insofar as the regular chiyuv of hatzalah is concerned. Right. Therefore I have to include the uber into this new parasha of roidef in order to be able to introduce a new chiyuv of hatzalah to save the mother, which is why we cut up the kid. Here endeth the first lesson, as they say.